It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, producer Matthew Kadish of the Salty Nerd Podcast, coming at you today with a lot of really fun stuff. We're going to talk about Kathleen Kennedy getting slighted by Spielberg. We're going to be talking about Strange New Worlds Season 2, Episode 1. We're going to be talking about Activision, causing a kerfluffle. Lots of stuff. But before we get into all that, let me introduce my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Bader 74. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, I'm here. I'm awake, sort of. My joints hurt like normal, and I feel pretty good otherwise. So whatever.
You want to fill people in on why your joints are hurting?
Oh, because I'm just because the weather changed, and for some reason when the air pressure changes, it's like a tire on your car, except it's in my knee.
Short answer: I mean? He's 70 years old.
He's old. No, yes, I feel like it sometimes. I need to go down to the tire center and have them upgrade my put some air in my knees.
Put some oil on it, maybe.
And he's here. He's queer. He's our gender fluid representation on the panel, protecting us from all types of censorship. Brian from the Popcast. How you doing, Mr. Brian?
What's happening? I read through the show notes today, and I think you're going to need me so much today. I'm a required shield today, because today is going to be rich with topics that will be difficult to speak on without getting demonetized.
Well, it was a pleasure having you in studio last week, Brian.
Yeah.
What did you think of our setup out here?
Vader kept touching my knee under the desk. I don't know what that. I was like, listen,
well, I thought you were Jude. You were sitting in Jude's seat.
Oh, that's what it was.
And there's stuff that goes on. There's stuff that goes on our side of the table that Matt doesn't know about. So I need you to bring it down a little bit.
Okay, I see.
Okay,
I see.
So
never mind. It was fantastic. I consented to everything.
Exposed.
And adding some muy caliente to the panel today is Mexican Iron Man. Thank you for being here today, Mike.
Thanks for inviting me. Always happy to be here. I catch the show all the time. I was excited when you opened up my DMs and said, "Hey, we need another brown guy because that podcast dude isn't enough of the diversity and representation."
Yeah, I'm not brown enough.
Nope. And I've been out in the sun. Can you tell?
Yeah, I can tell.
Mexican Iron Man, you are Hispanic. Brian is Latinx.
Oh, that's right.
We got both ends of the spectrum here.
No, it's La Twinks.
La Twinks, okay. And coming at us from his freshly painted office is the man, the myth, the legend himself, Odin, who has been conspicuously absent the last couple episodes. So we're very happy to have him back.
I'm glad to be back. It's actually a new office. So we had a kitchen down here because this used to be an Airbnb with 2 kitchens. And so we ripped out the kitchen down here, put a new office in. And so we finally were able to have time to move stuff in. So still getting things, getting set up, but it is nice to have a chair in the background where you can see my puppies from time to time. That reminiscent of the first house we had here in Chattanooga. So
I feel like OMB needs like a fireplace behind him at all times, and he needs to be stroking
a fire
like
pit.
A fire pit, and I need you to be stroking a hairless cat while you talk.
Yes.
Well, Odin, we were afraid that all of our pineapple on pizza jokes drove you away for a while. So good to see
never will
no
be
hard
enough.
feelings that you're back. And making an entrance as always is the man himself from Midnight's Edge, Tom Connors.
Oh man,
Jr.
I had to be here if my Mikey's gonna be here.
Full panel.
My Tom.
It's like Batman to Robin.
We got
yes.
Half the panel hasn't watched what we're going to talk about today.
The Flash?
That's great.
I saw the Flash.
No, not that.
We're not talking.
Why would you guys put strange?
Why would you not talk about it?
Why would you talk about Strange New Worlds? Nobody saw it. I know we joked that nobody has seen movie. Like literally nobody has seen this movie. Like they asked, did anybody watch this movie? No. Like nobody came to the theater. Nobody bought a ticket. I don't even think people know this movie exists.
Here's what happened. Kadish several times this week has asked me and Alex both. It's like, so you guys want to talk about the Flash next Tuesday? And we're like, it's like, no, we really don't want to talk about the Flash this week. It's just, and that's just, that's a sad thing, isn't it?
This is going to be a short show, gang. See you guys later.
I enjoyed the movie a lot. It was a good movie. Really
the
great.
Flash or Strange World?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, no, The Flash. Strange New Worlds has problems.
Oh, Strange New World. Oh, Flash has a lot of problems.
I disagree.
Well, before we get into all that, I just want to shout out everyone who's joined us in the chat. Anthony Mark, Our salty superstar, the AstroNerdBoy, is here. Joker Voice is in the chat. Hashtag keep talking. We got our what do you call it? The super sticker superstar, Gavin Blackburn, always dropping us super stickers. Jeremy Turner, Penny, Danny's mom. Good to see you, Penny. Mr. Farnsworth, No Money G is in the chat, along with Matt R. And let's see here, Cocho Dragon and Joey's Movie Blog. Thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate it. And before we get going, we just want to give a shout out to all of our top contributors to the show. We got our Salty Saturday superstars, Scotty Dub, still at that $500 mark, Bob Dorsey, and the AstroNerdBoy guys. Thank you all so much for your support. Really appreciate it. And of course, Joker Voice and Mexican Iron Man, one of our panelists. They're our most consistent donators. We really appreciate that. And our top super thankers, Backyard TARDIS and JT Gunn. Appreciate you guys. And of course, our top contributor, Scotty Dub, gets his own special shout out because he's awesome. Real quick, we just want to remind everyone to become an SJW. Join the Salty Justice Army. Get one of our Salty Justice Warrior shirts on our store and help support the show. And our goal for this live stream is 10 new YouTube members. So if you guys haven't signed up for the YouTube members area on our channel, be sure to do that because you get all types of cool content. Most of it is just Vader ranting about stuff he's upset about. And we've got quite the rant planned for next Tuesday because he's got something. Yes, he's got something that we keep telling him he can't talk about publicly.
Just pissed me off last night.
I'm just going to talk about it on the members area. So we put all
can
that
we get
stuff.
a tease? Can we get a tease of what it's going to be about?
Well, no, there's a thing that happened, and these guys are all like, "We're going to take the high road," and I'm like, "No." But
Where's the members area?
I kind of got outvoted, so whatever. It's fine. It's all good. I want to.
Vader's like, "There's two roads."
I want to go scorched earth on some things, and well, sometimes it's not the best luck.
Is this with what's his name?
And
the director of
No.
Something completely different and stupid.
It'll be all over. It's already all over. And I probably won't talk about it anyway, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but for those of you wondering, the YouTube members area that you can sign up for at the button below, that's where we put all of our Vader rant and outtake videos. And over at saltynerdclub.com, which is our Patreon, we're putting out audio only Patreon content. Although the next members thing to drop on Patreon is going to be a full watch party with Lynn Kabazinski watching the classic movie The Hunted, starring Christopher Lambert. That was a lot of fun, so definitely check that out. And we got some super chats to cover before we get going here. Real quick, the Joker's Voice for $10. Off to go see The Flash. Pray for me. Hail S&P, and huge shout out to Shane and Brian for my new t-shirt design. Limited time only. All proceeds go to charity. Hashtag keep talking.
Is that his Batman bitches design or whatever?
Yeah.
It is? Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, it's the design where when I was putting it up, I had to use asterisks because I can't have actual curse words on the website. But good job, Joker.
And of course, Mexican Iron Man, thank you so much for $10 for the S&P Non-Diversity, Non-Inclusion, and Non-Representation Fund, otherwise known as just being normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the human fund.
For the human fund. Exactly.
The normie fund.
The colorblind fund. And also Salty Superstar, the AstroNerdBoy for $10. Thank you, AstroNerdBoy. Been seeing him a lot in our Discord.
Astro's one of us now. We've taken him in.
Yes. Talk about it anyway, Vader. Salty Vader rants are the best. Indeed, they are. All right, guys. So let's talk a little bit about Kathleen Kennedy, shall we? Start off the show.
She's getting fired again?
No.
That'd be nice, right?
So Doomcock's into the chat.
So this was a little bit interesting, and I just say a little bit because I think that this is being blown out of proportion. But at the Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny premiere, you can see up here on the stage, let me blow this up, that we have Frank Marshall, Kathleen Kennedy, George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, James Mangold, and Harrison Ford up here on stage. And before they introduced John Williams, Steven Spielberg gave a little speech kind of calling out the glue that holds Indiana Jones together. And he specifically mentioned George Lucas and Harrison Ford. And just when you thought he was going to say Kathleen Kennedy, he's like, nope, John Williams. And then Kathleen Kennedy doesn't applaud. She's the only person who doesn't applaud when
What's going on with the mouse on the screen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a StreamYards thing. So I'm not going to play the audio just because, but you can kind of see like what happens here. Let me fast forward to it. There we
Play
go.
the part where Harrison Ford backsmacks Kathleen Kennedy. Oh, you don't have that part?
That would be
Smack.
So as you can see, everyone's applauding but her, and now she's just like kind of awkward.
Frank even has to drag her off the stage.
Yeah.
Ooh, John.
Yeah.
First, she drags off old man George.
I don't know if you guys noticed that, but like, watch what she does with George Lucas.
Well, I've been hearing he's not in the best of health lately, actually.
Also, he's not clapping either, so
I think he's just trying to stand up. To be honest with you, look at him. He's like hanging over to his left side.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Really
I wonder if he didn't have a stroke, because I've been hearing some rumors that he had some health problems recently.
On the red carpet, I remember seeing there was like a wild George Lucas spotted, and it was like he was just there, and he just like kind of walks by. But yeah, he's definitely, you can tell he doesn't look comfortable.
Something's not right.
Yeah, something's not right.
You know, the whole thing was pretty funny, because Steven Spielberg gets up there with everybody, and he goes, we need to acknowledge some people on the stage. And this is for the people in the chat who haven't seen this yet. But he goes, these are all very important people to the Indiana Jones franchise, and we need to acknowledge 3 people. And there's 5 people up there, right? And he goes, the creator, George Lucas. Everybody claps, woo, woo, including Kathy, she golf claps. And he goes, Indiana Jones himself. And he points over to Harrison, of course, and everybody claps, woo, and Kathy's all like this, and then she's getting ready, and she's looking at her husband there, and then Steven Spielberg goes, and now for the person who is the glue that keeps all 5 movies together, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. God, I can't remember his name.
John Williams.
And the thing rises up, and everybody goes crazy, and Kathy just goes, sort of. And she doesn't clap. She looks at her husband, and it was kind of weird. It was just, I don't know. It's not a huge. I think we're kind of reaching a little bit, but it was still kind of funny if you put that context to it.
Yeah, Odin, do you want to throw your 2 cents in?
Yeah, because George Lucas wasn't clapping either. So it's like, why aren't we going after George Lucas too if he's not clapping for John Williams either? It seems to me like
because we're thinking George is dying, Odin.
It just seems like it was all planned, because basically as soon as that's announced, the curtain goes up, and what happens? She starts to help George off the stage. So
right,
it
does seem kind of funny though that he didn't acknowledge the other 2 people that were standing next to him,
for sure,
as well as John Williams. So.
It didn't seem that well organized, because nobody seemed to know like when to go off stage or what direction to walk in. But like I feel like she had to have known that they were going to be introducing John Williams at a certain point. Maybe she didn't know the details of how Spielberg planned to do it. But Brian from the Popcast, what was your take on this little incident?
I liked the way the curtain rose, and that entire band was back there.
It's very Las Vegas, right?
Yeah, that's super rad. I don't get to go to a lot of fun stuff because I'm a hermit and I work 12 to 18 hours a day. But every once in a while, some of these events blow me away. Now, regarding the Kathleen Kennedy thing, I don't know. George Lucas does look very weak, and that's troublesome because he's not that old, right? Like, I'm not sure how old he is, but it doesn't seem like he's that old.
I think he's close to 80.
Yeah,
he's older than one would think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because he was like 30 something when he made Star Wars.
Well, that's
born in 1944.
Yeah, so he's older. I would hate to. I mean, it's gonna happen inevitably.
He's 79.
Don't worry.
George
he's gonna buy it
Lucas,
back first.
I still love George Lucas, man. Even though he gave us the prequels, that's cool. I still love him. I think he's a creative, and I think we'll lose a great one if he hits the bucket. But as far as the Kathleen Kennedy thing, it might have just been planned. Although it's very weird for you to be standing next to someone who is so deeply involved with these projects and not say a single thing.
Right.
That's odd to me. But who knows?
So,
Maybe she's fired. Maybe Doomcock was right.
Well, Doomcock's always eventually proven right, isn't he?
Well, I'd
and
like to thank everyone on this panel for making this a special day. I'd like to thank Matt Kadish. I'd like to thank Matt Vader. I'd like to thank Odin, who I've been watching his reviews for I don't even know how long, the great Tom Connors. And I also want to thank everybody in chat. All right. Bye, everybody.
Yeah, I got it.
What happened?
I see what happened there. That's good.
I see what you did there.
It's good. It's good.
Mikey, what do you think about this incident?
I think it's I think Hollywood people in general, as much as I've had exposure to them in the past, they live off of the oxygen of attention and notoriety as much as air or water. So I enjoyed the fact that she's not as important as the guy who played the piano and put the orchestra together. So F her.
Well, Tom Connors, one thing I was surprised about is that Spielberg hasn't been canceled for failing to recognize the one woman up on that stage. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I mean, we may be making a bit more out of it than there was to begin with, but the fact that we noticed doesn't mean that she didn't.
Right.
Yep.
But watching the video again and again and again now for a few times, this is the first time I actually noticed George. So yeah, your guys are probably right. She was probably just waiting for her moment to help George off stage. I'm sure that was part of the plan. I don't necessarily. She's been a producer on the Indiana Jones films, but they also didn't mention her husband, who's also been the producer on all of them either. So I think that's kind of the telling moment. The moment they don't mention Frank too. And Frankie's like, "You son of a bitch. I did it all." Just kidding. But for those of my Mead fans out there, they know what Frankie. But yeah.
Was she producing on the first movie?
I think that was her first movie she actually produced on was Raiders, if I'm not mistaken, because she was still, I believe, just a gopher still on ET, if I remember right.
And let's be clear, because her production duties on the first Raiders were as a line.
Or maybe she was a producer on ET. Yeah.
Oh, line producer.
Maybe it's the other way around because Indiana Jones came first. That's right.
She was a coffee girl for the first movie, right?
Yeah, so she got
line producer. Yeah.
She got a producer credit, but she was a logistical producer, which basically meant that if Spielberg wanted something, it was her job to get it. She was not a creative producer. She did not have any input into the story or the decisions that were made in the film. She was strictly there. I think her husband was as well, to get locations, make sure that the clock moved, all that good stuff that needs to happen in order for a movie to actually be shot. But people give her way too much credit for being a producer, because she actually, if you look at her career, the only movies of hers that really did well were the ones that either Lucas or Spielberg were involved in. And that's because
Zemeckis.
That's because they're good filmmakers. They know how to run a set. They know how to meet a budget and a schedule.
And she doesn't have a creative bone in her body, clearly.
Exactly.
Well, not just that. I've said it before. She's got the easiest job in Hollywood, especially after Spielberg's first few films. It's like, how hard is it to call up and go, "Hi, this is Kathleen Kennedy. I'm Steven Spielberg's producer. Can we get the Brooklyn Bridge shut down for a few hours?" "Oh, sure, right away, Miss Kennedy." That's not, it's not, she calls up and says, "I'm Joe Schmo's producer." And they're like, "Who?" You can go hell, we're not shutting down a bridge for you.
I'm Kathleen Kennedy.
Exactly.
Thank God this
Steven
isn't one of
Spielberg
those
got her here, yes.
streams where I have to fight and argue like I do with RMB, who's my great brother and a great friend of mine. He and I argue and disagree on how great she is as a producer. I'm like, give me an effing break. I mean, seriously? I'm like, you have to, what does a producer like her do? Pay bills, hire people, get permits from the city and county, and it's just like Tom says. Hi,
She's
I'm
never
calling
had
for
a
George
headache.
Lucas or Steven Spielberg. My husband's Frank Marshall.
Yeah.
You know all the TV shows you watched that he made when you were a kid? Yeah, that guy. All right, please get the hell out of here with that Kathleen Kennedy's amazing, blah blah blah. Get the hell out of here with that crap.
Well, one of the things I was surprised about was, Spielberg didn't mention Mangold either, and he didn't go on a 12-hour Twitter rant flaming him
my
for
God.
ignoring him.
That's a good point.
Also, aren't you just so excited for when that movie comes out and all the money it's expected to not make?
Well, that brings me to one thing I wanted to ask the panel, is that, the rumor was that Kathleen Kennedy was going to step down after Indiana Jones, leaving on a high note for its success. If it fails, do you think she's going to stick around longer or were there any truth to those rumors to begin with? Tom Connors, do you have any thoughts on that?
I honestly don't think she's ever going to leave unless it's on her own accord. And I know you're somebody who's beat that same drum, Matt, because as we just said here, regardless of how untalented she may be or how undifficult or easy her job may have been in the past, she still is in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most successful producer of all time, not just female producer, but just producer, period. She's arguably one of the most powerful people in Hollywood. Until the day she dies, nobody's going to say a bad word about her in the press. And even then, it's going to be some tell-all books and stuff here and there, maybe down the road. But this woman is not going anywhere unless she's good and ready. I've said it before. She could literally go out in front of the Magic Kingdom, strip down naked, take a shit on the front steps, and scream, "I'm going to kill all the children," and still have a job on Monday.
Well, I think that goes for everyone in Hollywood, but
well, for a lot of them, yes, you're not wrong. But I mean, and do 1,000 other things on top of it all, and still have a job because she's Kathleen Kennedy. I know Mikey and I are not, impressed with her, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. She is one of the type of people that keeps Hollywood going all the time.
Yeah, Odin, one of the big things that we've heard from behind the scenes at Lucasfilm is that Kathleen Kennedy is directly responsible for the toxic culture over there. Anti-male, anti-straight, all this other stuff. How do you think she's been able to get along for so long?
Well, I think, it was kind of being, inferred there where it's just because you have power doesn't mean you have talent. Power and talent are not mutually exclusive. And so it's basically because she was able to ride the coattails of so many other, not just powerful people, but also much more creative and much more talented people to get herself in a position where she actually has that power and influence to be able to do whatever she wants and not have to face the consequences. And I think also living in the era that we're living in, I think basically if you look back to even just the Me Too movement and stuff, a lot of that stuff that was going on at that time was around the time that Star Wars was really starting. I feel like it was going on when Star Wars was really starting to go down the tubes. So part of me kind of wonders, was she maybe protected by some of these, social movements? It's hard to say, but I think it's because ultimately she has power, and that power is very clearly being utilized. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the spin is going to be when this movie comes out, because not only is the budget expected to have been insanely high, like close to $300+ million, but the fact that it's not expected to make much of anything is very exciting. Looking forward.
I think Valiant Renegade actually confirmed that it was over 300 million.
Yeah,
because they shot it in the UK, and there you have to report it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
with all the COVID delays and all that stuff. Mexican Iron Man, I wanted to ask you about something. So you and I were on WDW Pro Livestream not too long ago, and there they talked about how the Disney CFO, Chief Financial Officer Victoria Alonso, had recently stepped down, and she was one of Kathleen Kennedy's biggest protectors on the Disney board. And with her being gone, do you think that this might be a sign that Kathleen Kennedy's days are numbered?
I don't think the two things are necessarily quite as connected. I'd say that's probably more tertiary. I don't want to comment about the health stuff because it's none of our business. I am glad McCarthy's leaving. I don't think she deserves any accolades because she has been a co-conspirator and an enabler to Bob Iger buying things and not using them. The balance sheet is worse during her tenure. The debt has never been higher. Disney Plus has been allowed to rack up losses that are almost in excess of $12 billion. The studios under which she serves as chief financial officer and all those business units have allowed to put out movie after movie that has not broken even and has not generated significant profits, let alone merchandising results for the company. If by her leaving, that leaves Kathleen Kennedy with one less ally, awesome. Whether Kathleen Kennedy leaves or when she leaves, we have a bigger problem, which is who in the hell is going to replace her.
Yeah.
It could get a lot worse because at least we have a Karen who's incompetent we could get someone who's much more diabolical and give us even more crap than we ever thought was possible.
Baloney. Oh, excuse me.
I heard we were going to
And-
sell it to the Saudis or something, right? Is
I don't
that
know
what's
about
going on?
any of that, but
So I misspoke. It was Christine McCarthy who stepped down, not Victoria Alonso. There are so many diverse.
Victoria's
women.
been gone for a while.
Yeah, there's so many diverse women getting booted in Hollywood. It's hard to keep
Well,
track.
and I will say this about the whole Christine McCarthy thing. I don't think she left for any other reason than there is some personal issues going on in her life. Because
Yeah, I
right
mean,
now it makes very little sense for her to just walk out, and she is sticking around to help find her successor. And usually when that happens, that means it's more of a mutual thing.
Well, also she was in line to be the next CEO.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess the rumor going around is that her husband has been in really bad shape for the last few months, and things are getting bad there. And rumors there have even been flying about herself because she's had cancer in the past. And I don't want to get into all that. I'm just saying, I think at the end of the day, I don't think her exit is like Victoria Alonso's was my point.
Brian, the rumor has been for a long time that Kathleen Kennedy was looking to step down after Indiana Jones came out because she expected it to be a huge hit. What's your take on the financial projections for Indiana Jones here? Because it looks like it's not set to do too well, surprisingly.
Yeah, I was surprised they went on pre-sale so early too. Like, I went to go buy Flash tickets a month before they came out, or a few weeks, and I noticed that Indiana Jones was already there. I'm like, oh, let me just check out. Let me get that real quick while I'm here. And I don't remember movies going on pre-sale so early. Usually it's like a month out, and this was way more than a month. And I was just sort of shocked. Also, I got my tickets and noticed that it was just me in the theater, and there's no way I was the first one there. So I'm sitting there. I'm like, oh, it's like I can sit anywhere. Okay, all right. I don't know the projections. I think people have this like inflated idea of what movies are supposed to make nowadays too. Since COVID, we just don't have the same. People are not coming to the movies the same way, and it's probably because movies suck too. That doesn't help. But like the big giant numbers people are looking for are just getting more rare, especially with superhero movies. Like the cape crap, people are sort of over. With all the garbage they've been doling out. And Indiana Jones doesn't have a whole lot of good press going for it. They released at the film festival, and they thought they were going to get nothing but love. And instead, the critics were like, not loving. So, they don't have a lot going for it. And these advanced pre-sale tickets coming out way ahead of time, and them still not being able to, like, realistically meet their projections. I don't know. I just think that people have an overinflated idea of what movies are going to make. And if you look at, like, go back to the DC movies, all the movies that came out pre Walter Hamada, just sort of instantly made an insane amount of money. Anything after that didn't. I think that COVID and the streaming services has changed a lot of people's ideas on whether or not movies are worth it. Is it worth it for me to go spend $20 to go watch a movie, or can I just wait literally 28 days and watch it on X streaming service?
Well, it's not just movies people are thinking about. I mean, it's like, how much does it cost to go have a fun night out right now? You have to add all that stuff together. I mean, my wife and I went to a locals place last week, and we spent $50 on 2 salads and some wings.
Let's just dig.
And so it's just harder for normal people to go out and spend money on entertainment.
I want to see the Flash. One big popcorn, 4 drinks, me and my 2 kids.
That's $100.
It's $100.
It's still cheaper than going to Olive Garden, though. That's the thing. I mean, I know we're griping about it, but going to the movie is still the one thing that most families can afford to do. Because try going to a concert. Go to anything else, a sports, anything. No, I'm not kidding. You may be going, but no, think about it for a minute. It may cost you $100 to go to a movie, but now think about how much it costs for you to go get something to eat and go to a baseball game. You're going to spend $500 easy.
Yeah. You're talking to a bunch of nerds here. I've never done that.
But I'm just saying, going to a concert, anything else, anything other than going to a movie nowadays is almost unattainable for anybody who doesn't have a huge income.
But the
That's
value
wild.
that's
Well,
why it comes down to the value
But
of
the
what you're
value
spending
of it, you're
on.
right. And people would rather
Yeah.
just wait for it to come to streaming. You're not wrong on that.
And that's why
but
I
I
think
mean-
that's the bigger factor, right? Is because if you go to a baseball game, even if the team sucks, you're still there talking. You can actually talk to the person next to you, right? And so that automatically will make it much more of a you feel like you're getting value for the money that you're spending versus movies where most of the films nowadays just seem really, really bad. And I think it's
I feel like going to a baseball game is just going to a really expensive bar.
Yeah, like why would you?
That's
Well,
all
we're
there is to do
nerds,
at a
too.
baseball game.
You got to
gonna pay-
understand, we're all nerds too.
I like
Pay to go in there
baseball,
and buy
okay.
expensive drinks so you can talk to each other. Guys, we can do that in my backyard. We don't need baseball.
Let me lay this out for some of you though. Like, okay, so in terms of like the box office, we've got out of control inflation, so tickets are more expensive
Yep.
than
Right.
they've ever been. We've got increased concession stand. We've got theaters who still haven't recovered from COVID, so people aren't going to the theaters as much as they used to. And also we've got a very shortened streaming window. So like literally like 2 weeks after a movie comes out, it's available on streaming. And most people are already paying for streaming services. So they're just like, I'm just going to wait until it comes out. So like you have all these factors kind of like building up. So like it's more expensive to go to the movies than it used to be. People aren't making as much money as they used to be because the value of the dollar's down and people are getting laid off left and right. And then you also have the fact that like, hey, I can just wait for it to come on my TV and watch it in the comfort of my own home. So Vader, what is the value proposition of going to see a movie, especially one that's getting bad reviews like Indiana Jones 5?
I don't know what that means, the value proposition, because I'm just a plebe. But like I said, I weigh the cost versus if it's going to be coming out on streaming soon, just like you said. Most of the movies that we watch for the podcast, I watch because we have to do that. And if not, I would more than likely on 90% of these movies be waiting for them to come out so I can watch them at home. It's just like we said, it's not that big of a deal to not see something in the theater anymore. And that's very sad to me because I am a person who enjoys the theater experience. I like to go out. I like to go watch a movie on a giant screen that's made to be watched on a giant screen, not whatever size TV you have at your home. Whether you have a 70-inch or a 30-inch, it's still a big TV. It's not the same as going to the theater. I mean, I know we all probably have some nice setups at home, but it's still not the same. It's just all the extraneous costs. Even it cost me almost $10 to drive to the theater. To get there and back. You start adding that up over a week with everything. It's just everything's gone up in price except our pay. So you just have to prioritize stuff, and that definitely affects people's abilities to go out to the movie theaters and other entertainment options, So
yeah, and theaters haven't been keeping up either. Right, that's the other big problem too, because I have a local theater, for instance, where I've actually sent a complaint to their I've been a Karen in a way, sending a complaint to their corporate office, but it's because I saw a movie on their big. It's the poor man's version of IMAX, but it was still the biggest screen they have, and the bulb was clearly on the brink of death because it was flickering 2 weeks in a row. And I'm like, look, I don't want money back or anything. I just want you to fix the bulb. I just want, But that's a big problem. These theaters, many of them, because of the financial strains that they're under, but also because some of them just don't realize they need to make it worth it. If they're going to make you spend $14, they got to make you.
Well, that's the real nefarious thing about inflation, right? That a lot of people don't understand.
Well,
it makes things that are supposed to be cheap more expensive, and it makes things that are supposed to hold value, like your paycheck, worth less. And so when you have a government that doesn't understand economics, that's just blowing this shit out of proportion, it affects everyone.
That's a trigger word, by the way, inflation. How dare you mention that word?
And the problem is the studios were already squeezing the theaters hard enough before COVID, right? Because I'd ask people, what's the things you don't like about the movie? And 9 times out of 10, if not even 10 times out of 10, every complaint somebody has about the theater is directly a result of the theaters not having enough money to function. And the reason that is because there was a time where Disney and some of these other studios for these big movies were demanding over 60% of the opening weekend box office for a lot of these movies.
90%
in some cases, yeah. And if you're taking that much of the money, you're not going to have enough money to hire anybody to handle the projectors, to handle cleaning up afterwards. That's why you have to charge $20 for a candy bar. You know, like, and when everybody's sneaking money in or sneaking food in and they're losing money that way too, it's understandable at the end of the day why these things are a problem. Just like what Odin said, I had the same problem with Flash this week. And it's the same theater every time. It's because they got no money to hire anybody. And so the whole time it looked like the movie was flickering. And I hated that.
It's the worst thing.
I got the same problem too with concessions. Like I go to a theater, I actually pay a membership every month. But I get free tickets, so it makes complete
A-list.
sense. I mean, I spend $10 a month, and every month I get a ticket added to my account with rollover. So I don't see.
Feel like Brian's humble bragging when he talks.
I don't
about
see a
this.
downside. No, it's a good deal.
I have Movie Pass and A-list, and I feel like a star.
COVID was one of the few things.
I go to this theater though, right? And there's 4 concession stands, but I've been going there for the last 6 months, and there's only ever one concession stand open on Friday night.
Yeah.
With the Flash opening, there are 1,000 people there, and the line is all the way out to the parking lot for the concession stand. Dude, it's insane.
That shows you.
You almost want to go in there and find a manager and go, "Hey man, give me an apron. I'm gonna go make some popcorn."
Listen, I got it's not that hard. I can do this real quick. I'll do it you're not even gonna pay me. How about I just get the free popcorn and I'll get you set up for the next group of people. No big deal.
And Brian evidently went to the only theater in the world that actually had people going to see the Flash in it too.
I know, right?
Oh, there was a lot of people there. Like the park. I don't know if it was just the Flash, but like the line out to
opening
the door,
night ahead.
This is going to be a horrible weekend for the box office. Not just because of that, just the Flash. Everything. They'll be lucky to crack $100 million with the opening movies.
Yeah, didn't Renegade say it was either Valiant Renegade or WWE Pro? We're talking about how this could be the worst summer box office in a long time. Like
Yes.
box office weekend. And
Because every movie has underperformed. The only movies this year that have made any money have been smaller pictures like Megan, and then you got to get up to like Mario Brothers. Other than that, no big studio pictures have really made any money. Guardians of the Galaxy is lucky if it's broken even. Every other movie has pretty much lost money. Even Fast X barely broke even.
Evil Dead Rise made money.
A Pixar movie.
Yeah, that's another one with Megan. Yeah.
Does anybody remember that?
No, that's going to tank. It's going to be lucky to make 30 million. That's my point. Is
Wait, which
between
one?
Elemental?
Yeah.
Between
That movie
Flash and
came out?
Elemental, they're not even going to make $100 million together.
Guys, it's
That movie
okay
come out?
because fire and water needs to mix to make a kumbaya moment for the world. You know,
And no one's gonna see it. No
I
one's
hope
gonna know
that
what
movie
happens.
ends with immediately
Fire dying because water,
firing,
extinguished it.
I hope it ends with them finally coming together to make out
Steam.
or whatever, and then fire just dies. and then water looked at the camera and was like, "Well, I should have expected that to happen."
Well, I mean, that's a metaphor for most
Romeo and
relationships,
Juliet,
though,
right?
Yeah.
Right.
They've already showed that's not how it's going to work, Brian, because
Fire goes out and water turns into steam. And
whenever water comes in contact, it does steam up, but it doesn't dissipate like it should. Yeah.
Now, will it act like it did in Rings of Power, though? That's what I want to know. Will the water and fire mixing
Mordor is
create
created,
such a
yeah.
exactly?
Yeah, it's evil.
I think you're more right. By the end of the movie, they'll create a new element called love.
Called evil.
Oh God.
you guys have inspired me to go hard boil some eggs. For
Well, all
No, they're
Pixar
gonna
movies
create
are ripoffs anyway. So
It's the Love Rock, and the Love Rock is where the wedding ring. Oh my goodness! It's where
well,
wedding rings
yeah, you
come
just
from.
steal that from the
More.
Fifth Element. It's love. Yeah.
Well, they had to dig a trench first. So,
Do not speak ill of the Fifth Element, my friend.
real
We will
quick,
fight.
we have a super chat from Bob Dorsey for $50, but of course he forgot to put his comment in the super chat. So Bob Dorsey says, "I'm not opposed to spending $100 at a movie. I am opposed to spending that on crap writing and story that doesn't make sense. Kadish, figure out a way to keep 30 more %. Screw YouTube." Bob.
You need to get like a
He
Streamlabs link or something up.
Yeah, he makes a good point though, in the fact that it's okay to spend money on going to the movies as long as the movies are worth the money, right?
It's true.
I kind of want my money for Fast X back.
I don't blame you, Matt. And it's like a lot of these producers and studios have forgotten that they're competing with the biggest movie of all time every time you put out a movie, right? Like that used to be the thing. I can't remember who said it, but they were talking to somebody about their movie coming out the weekend, and he's like, "Oh, I hope it's good." He's like, "Oh, it only has to be as good as Titanic." And they're like, "What do you mean?" as good as Titanic. And he's like, well, they're paying the same amount of money to see your movie that they paid to see Titanic. So you just better hope it's as entertaining as that was, and they get their money's worth. And they freaked the director out, but at the end of the day, they thought about it, and they're like, you're right. Every movie you make should at least feel like it's worth the money the individual is slapping down to watch it. And it's like they forgot that. They've turned it around on us. It's like, oh, you're not as appreciating the work we did to put this together. It's like, so what?
You know, I'm going to go a step further as someone who obviously consumes and watches a lot of YouTube, and but doesn't consider himself a YouTuber at all, because I'm not a YouTuber. Hashtag.
Totally
But
YouTuber.
you know, you talk about a movie ticket for like $10. You know, I mean, not to be. I mean, I'm going to be real dead serious. There's a reason why I'm a loyalist to this show and other shows. I mean, like literally, like I don't mind throwing a $5, $10, $15 super chat for some of these live streams, because the entertainment value that I get from some of these live streams that guys like all of you on this panel do is at least, if not way more entertaining than this $100-200 million freaking production that I'm gambling with my life with, that I'm going to feel like I wasted my time on or not. And Hollywood needs to wake up real quick, because frankly, what I'm going to say is that just from an entertainment perspective as a fan, and I go to the movies at least 40 times a year, at least. Okay, in the last 2 years since things were, I go to the movies almost weekly.
He's not kidding. He goes almost weekly. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow, you must be rich.
I do okay.
He even has 2 TVs, Odin.
He is Mexican Iron Man.
Two TVs.
Wow.
Well,
Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
well.
Can it roll?
Anyway, let's not make
Any
this about
rolls.
me. I'm trying to make this about you guys. But I'm serious. Every one of you on this panel, I mean, I'd rather spend, and I have spent 10 or 20 bucks on super chats and been far more entertained than the average movie that I've gone to. And until the day that Hollywood wakes up and realizes that its competition is not even other studios, its competition are the very people that it proposes to want to entertain, that in fact today have become more entertaining, more intelligent, more analytical than any of these shill reviewers that are on freaking Rotten Tomatoes. And guys like me would rather spend money in the convenience of our own home being entertained by people like you that are on this panel than go to a shitty movie.
To Tom's point, you know, I've heard
I
this
have to
argument.
applaud that. That was beautiful.
Yes, I've heard this argument that you know, because people worked hard on something, it's deserving of respect and praise. The guy who broke into our studio and stole 10 grand worth of equipment worked really hard.
He did.
Breaking into this building. That
deserved
doesn't
it.
mean I want to respect the effort he put into
Right.
basically robbing us.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
That
Yeah,
is.
that's
You
how
can
I
still
feel.
respect the effort and still dislike what comes out of that effort, though, too. That's the thing. And when you're paying for that,
You say,
Well,
I'm
when the ar-
impressed,
when
but
the,
you
when
still
the argument
suck.
when the argument is that this guy worked really hard to rob you, so like you need to respect him. It's like no, I don't.
he's not a doctor.
Yes, or a
You know,
biologist.
can I add to
Or a
what Mike said
biologist.
real quick? You know, it's you got a good point there, Mike, and I appreciate the compliment. But also, like people here with like kids and stuff, you have to like concern yourself with what's in the movie too, and that's a big deal. Like I have to look up, hey, what agenda are we what boxes are we checking this movie? Am I cool with my 11-year-old twins seeing it? And sometimes I can't get information. I've actually watched movies ahead of time before taking my kids, because after that one Disney movie that came out where it was like stressing me out, I'm like, oh well, now I gotta watch everything. And it's so hard to find a movie that is not trying to push some weird agenda down your kids' throats. Like it could be rated PG and you still have a really high, problematic agenda in the movie. Thankfully for The Flash, I didn't get that, even though the guy that plays the main character is an actual, the reverse Flash. But a lot of the times in movies, like, I gotta roll my dice. And so it's easier to be like, well, I don't know if I want to watch Elemental this weekend. I'm just going to go ahead and wait for it to come out. That way I can review it before I let my kids watch it. I know that sounds like really, nervous, like a nervous parent kind of thing, but it's really not nowadays. Like everything, it's constant. It's never ending. I couldn't go, like I check to make sure that a movie doesn't have a bunch of propaganda, but then the first 10 minutes before the movie is nothing but propaganda commercials. Like I will literally go to a movie, make sure it's good, make sure that there's nothing being forced down my kid's throat, and for the first 10, 15 minutes, it's nothing but commercials promoting propaganda.
Yep.
It's like I can't get away from it. I can't get my kids away from it. I can't shield it from my kids anymore. It's insane and it's nonstop. And the movies constantly adopting that insane agenda over and over and over again, every single week, every single movie. It's enough to be like, well, you know what? Maybe I just wait for it to come out in streaming and make sure that my kids are allowed, can see this without being groomed. I'll just say that.
Yeah,
That's what it feels like. It feels like every movie
right.
is grooming my kids.
Yeah, guys, real quick. Gavin Blackburn for £1.49. See what I did there? Super sticker. Thank you so much, Gavin Blackburn. I appreciate that.
Say it with a little bit more hip hip in your voice.
49 pence.
JT Gunn, Late Night with Cap for $5. Here's $5 for that horrible knockoff review. LOL. So he's talking about our Jean-Claude Van Damme review of knockoff on our channel. And of course, Salty Superstar, the AstroNerdBoy for $10. No movie has jazzed me to get to the theater, nor to get a subscription for streaming. For Top Gun Maverick, I trusted folks who said it was good, and I just bought it on Blu-ray. Makes sense.
Yeah.
And real quick, Vader, you wanted to give a shout out to one of our streaming partners out there.
Oh, I just want to say hello and thank you to everybody over on our Rumble channel for hanging out today. Salt Dog Zero and the boys over there. I'm always amazed when we have like the double-digit number of people watching.
We can say the N-word on Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So
That's very
I just
nice.
wanted
Not
to
this weekend.
Oh,
anyway, thanks for watching on Rumble, guys. We appreciate that, and it's nice to see that that channel growing over there. Because we need to diversify the way we do these things.
You gotta
And
diversify your bomb.
you never know when our lords at the Googles will just say
Pull the plug.
pull
Yeah.
the plug on you. So
And Brian, his last rant was very appropriate for the segue to talk about kids, because there was a big kerfluffle where we have a famous streamer named Nick Merks versus Activision, and this was something that hit Vader very hard. So I want to throw it to Vader.
Oh, boy.
Vader, tell us all about what happened and
Well,
why
what'd
you
you
were
do?
so
I don't
why
know
you were
if I
so
can-
impacted by it.
I don't know if I
What'd
can
you
tell
do?
everybody what all happened. Everybody should know what's happened by now. Nick Merks made a really benign little
Yep.
tweet.
All right, hold on. I'm going to
What?
take it back for just a second.
Okay.
So Nick Merks is a
words
famous
are violence.
Yeah.
is a famous live streamer with FaZe Clan. He's got millions of followers.
There you go.
And there was a tweet that was put out by someone who saw some protest violence against between LGBTQ activists who were protesting a school board meeting, and people who were parents that were being affected by the school board's
Yep.
decision to allow like LGBTQ stuff like in the school. And Nick Merks replied to this tweet and basically said, just leave the kids out of it. And that was pretty much all the tweet said. And then there was this barrage of people saying that tweet was anti-LGBTQ and hate speech. And Activision then pulled a special pack from Call of Duty, which was like, one of his signature games that was designed by Nick Merks or inspired by him or something like that, as protest by saying like, we don't support this type of hate speech. And since then, major streamers like Dr. Disrespect, mad respect for him, and Tim the Tap Man and stuff like that have come out on Nick Merks' side by saying like, hey, all we're saying is don't groom children.
Leave the
And
kids alone.
Leave the kids alone.
Yeah.
But for some reason, wanting to protect children has become a rallying cry for hate speech against LGBTQIA, the alphabet mafia, basically.
Right.
What a
How'd-
wild thing.
Yeah, so it's very bizarre. So Vader, you were all excited to start
Basically,
playing.
all they do is if they don't like something you say, they say it's hate speech.
Yeah, so Vader was very excited to play Diablo 4, but after
Yeah.
this Activision kerfluffle,
Right.
you decided not to support Activision / Blizzard by
Right.
playing this game. So can you tell
hell
us
yeah.
a little bit
Well,
behind this?
I've been working. Me and Alex have decided that we're going to open up a little side hustle here for Salty Nerd Gaming, And I was completely planning, being the Blizzard shill that I've been for the last 20 years. So I don't really know why. I've been looking forward to playing Diablo 4 for years now, years. And when this all came about, I was going to launch our gaming channel with Diablo 4. That was always my plan. And this all came about the same, like 2 days before I was going to start playing games on our channel. And I said, I can't be behind this Nick Merks thing with the Leave the Children Alone at Activision towards Call of Duty, when Activision owns Blizzard. Activision Blizzard is what the company's called. So, I just took the stand. It's like, I'm not going to play Activision games. I'm not going to play Blizzard games until they get this sorted out. So I guess that just means I'm not going to play Diablo 4. I got to find other things to pass my time over on Salty Nerd Gaming. And that's just kind of my own personal way to support this effort. When Dr. Disrespect, who is a massive streamer, love him or hate him, you got to respect him. He goes on there after this whole thing and says, hey guys, this is what we got to do. And he goes on to his launcher and he pushes Call of Duty and he pushes the delete button. That's a strong statement. Mm-hmm. And that's what all these people need to do. And I just got mad respect for these guys. Tim the Tatman, his initial reaction was kind of weak, but he made it good because, he had a skin up on that store too. And these guys, listen, these guys make a lot of money on those skins. These guys have millions of followers, and
70%.
And having the balls to do something like that, to make a statement, I have to respect it. And I can't not, I can't play these games right now. I have to find, it's like look, I know every gaming company out there is going to be woke in some way. They're all
not everyone though.
Most of them are going to have their diversity sections, and they're all infested with these young people who are all very into this whole, rainbow, purple haired stuff. But it's not me. But as long as these companies aren't just like flat out trying to groom your kids and insert their rainbow bullshit into their games, I'm going to be okay for the most part. But Activision's gone too far here. And it's a very sad thing to me. And so I have no problem supporting these guys. I have no problem going to Activision's Twitter and simply saying, leave children alone. Yep. Every one of their posts, everybody should be doing it. We should be ratioing the living hell
and every
out of their social media. And it's awesome to see. And I don't really have a whole lot more to say about it other than we need to support this movement, this effort, because it's important. It's not these companies to influence our children. It's not schools' jobs to indoctrinate our kids with this weird shit. Okay, that's what a parent's for. So family's for.
Yeah. So
anyway,
before we get to Brian and the rest of the panel, I want to share with everyone that the last 3 live streams that we've done for Salty Saturday have been demonetized by YouTube. And it wasn't like because we showed copyrighted content. It was literally because we talked about topics like this. And we don't give a shit if we're demonetized. Right. We're going to talk about this stuff. And I do think it's important that the fact that we say don't involve children is a trigger word that can get us canceled. Like, that is insane to me. And Brian, you just went off on this rant about being a parent and keeping your children out of this bullshit. Can you tell us what you think about this Activision thing where they're basically coming out and saying that by protecting your children, you're anti-LGBTQ?
Yeah, no, so that's insane.
Yeah.
That is the most insane part of this is that when we say, please leave kids alone, they go, wow, that's hate speech. So you're just confirming you're going for the kids? I don't understand here. How is it hate speech for me to say, as a parent, please leave my kids out of your weird agenda? They don't need to know about your sexual history or who you want to have sex with or what type of genitalia you like to touch. We don't care. Do whatever you want as long as you're consenting adults and you keep it out of my kids' head. My kids don't need to know anything about your lifestyle whatsoever. They don't need to know about my lifestyle. I don't walk around talking about how I touch my wife. That's not their that's inappropriate. I don't need anything involving pride or flags or whatever in my kids' ears. And when it comes to Activision, first off, F Activision for sure. But while we go out of our way to make sure that they don't get support and they get the wake-up call that hopefully our dollars or a lack of dollars will give them, we should be supporting the gaming companies who have never involved themselves in the Rainbow Coalition. And I know Steam's a big company, but they're still independent. Steam has never changed their logo on Pride Month. I've never seen a Rainbow Steam logo. I've never seen the Dota logo, and has never been co-opted for the flag. I've never seen a Counter-Strike logo where instead of holding a gun, he's holding a giant penis. I've never seen any one of their top games, which has millions of players and a huge, massive esports scene. Look at the trophies behind me. Oh, you can't see them. But I have all the international trophies.
Is that what those are?
Them. Yeah, they're up there. I'll show you.
Nice.
Oh, see that?
You're a stud, dude.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I'm kind of jealous.
Yeah. I've had skins on the Steam market for years. I get 73% of everything that sells. It's great. It's a good way to make money as a creator, and they've never supported that movement. They never have. They've never even involved themselves in anything political, except for maybe during COVID. They were like, I guess we're going to cancel the international. I guess we're going to cancel our esports this year because we can't travel and our people can't travel. That was the most they ever went. So here's the deal. Even their subreddit, no rainbow flags, no IDIC nonsense. It's just the game, because that's what it's about. It's about the game, right? It's about the experience. There's no agenda. There's nothing political about it. So if you want to cancel your support for Activision, you should, but also throw your support behind games and studios that don't actually get involved with this woke ESG
100%.
propaganda. And there's a plenty of independent studios out there. The biggest one being Steam. And I know it's crazy, but Steam is actually not a publicly traded company. They don't need a good ESG score. They don't need to be involved in politics. They can be completely operate on their own, and they have. The day Steam goes public, I'm investing. But they never will, because they make billions of dollars and don't have to tell anyone where the money goes. It's genius. So I would throw your support behind companies that don't get involved with the Gamergate propaganda bullcrap, and just and play games. And it's hard, I know, but I gotta tell you, every game that the Activision has, there's a corresponding better game out there.
Yep.
You like first-person shooters? Counter-Strike, man, a lot better than Call of Duty. No offense to all the COD heads out there.
There's at least a dozen good Diablo knockoffs out there that are actually pretty fun.
Hey, you like MOBAs? The granddaddy of all MOBAs is Dota 2, right there in my chair. That's the granddaddy. That's the one who made it all up. If you're playing League right now, more power to you. But it's half owned by China and half owned by an ESG conglomerate. I would completely get out of these games and these companies that are going out of their way to push this woke bull crap down your throat, and they know you're just going to bite anyways because you're good pig consumers that don't know the difference. We get mad today, and next week we're going to be like, well, that's over now. I'm going to go back and install Activision or Blizzard or whatever. Well, maybe just don't. Yep. Maybe just completely stop supporting these companies that are trying to push down any kind of agenda down your throat. Not specifically just rainbow nonsense. Anything that's not the actual product. And Activision, on top of it, is so bad at producing games, pre-selling games that aren't even finished. Right. And then having the entire player base test their game for them instead of paying actual testers. It's a horrible company.
So Brian,
Sorry.
I seem to remember Activision or the Call of Duty developers also getting rid of the word Nazi in their World War II game. But I want to throw this to Odin real quick. Odin, so the whole genesis of this thing was that there was a protest in Glendale where pro-LGBT demonstrators protested a school board meeting that was trying to prevent the school from recognizing June as Pride Month. And then parents showed up to counter protest, and there was some type of violent exchange that happened. And it was probably just like pushing and shoving and stuff like that. But somebody posted a video of this happening to Twitter, and this is what Nick Merks was commenting on. And what I found interesting about this is that they're painting the parents as the bad guys in this situation, when basically these pro-LGBT protesters, it's not just about recognizing Pride Month. Like, they want to teach gay sexuality to children. They want, basically pornography put in the libraries at schools. There's all types of ancillary subjects that these people are trying to inject into schools, into the institutions that teach our children. And all Nick Merks said was like, hey, just leave the kids out of it. If you want to push these agendas, do it to adults. Don't try to indoctrinate children in on this stuff. Wait until they're old enough to make decisions for themselves. That seems like common sense nowadays, but you're a teacher. You're someone who's involved, with your heavily with your religion and stuff like that. So I want to get your take on this.
I mean, it's just so disturbing in so many different ways, but also it's one of those ironic things where who would have thought that children and the lives of children would be the one thing that would bring people together on an issue, right? It's like, look at almost every single industry. You have the gaming industry, the movie industry, and the beer industry. This is the issue that is uniting people together to actually stand, right? In the past, boycotts that have happened have been mostly ineffective because they haven't lasted very long. People haven't had the willpower. But now that because kids are being involved in this, now you have people that are like, no, there actually is other ways that we can go. Going back to the gaming, right? It's both a big and small thing, right? It's a big thing to give up those types of games and skins because, as you said, that's a huge part of revenue, right? When it comes to the skins, available on stores. And then also, most people who are playing certain games are famous maybe because of playing that game or because of the kinds of games they play. And luckily there are, right? It's small because there are alternatives out there, right? There are alternatives that you'd be able to find to continue to have the similar type of content out there. But yeah, as a teacher especially, it always disturbs me whenever I see some of these school board meetings or the decisions made, especially when it comes to books in schools, because whenever anyone comes out to try to say you're trying to ban books in school, it's like, well, one, we're not trying to ban books, and two, if you're actually going to look, could you actually take a second to look at the book that's being discussed? Because most of them, when they say that, all they think about is, oh, this is a book about this issue. They don't know what's actually in it. They don't know the graphic content that's in there that is completely inappropriate. But kind of touching on what someone else had mentioned, I think it is very much the fact that because there's been this response to this, it's almost forced this movement to show their hand. Because everyone knows that this is always that slippery slope argument, right? Where you start off somewhere and then you get, further and further downstream. And, I can, bet your bottom dollar that they were eventually going to try to go through the whole map issue. That was going to be the next thing, right? Because this can only get more and more extreme. This can only get more and more nefarious. And so I think that because now it's been stopped in its tracks and now people are starting to have to expose their full ideas, especially in relationship to children. And I think that movies like What is a Woman, the entire controversy around that on Twitter and all that stuff has really further exposed what exactly is the danger when it comes to this crazed movement that has now become just a completely wild animal. And I'm so happy to see parents, especially because parents are the primary educators of children. It's not only their responsibility, but it's also practically they're the ones that teach their children good morals, how to live, how to treat other people. And for the fact that the majority of parents, not all, but the majority of parents are finally stepping up to this is just so phenomenal to see. I'm so happy to see it.
Mexican Iron Man, I wanted to ask you as a financial expert, how do you think this Nick Merks backlash is going to affect Activision? Because they're a pretty big company, so I don't know how hard their wallet's going to get hit by this thing. But if there is a movement to boycott one of their most popular games, Call of Duty, could it get them to change, or are they so deep into the ESG stuff that they're just committed?
I'm going to answer that question a little bit. Well, I'm not sure if it's going to financially hit them like it did Bud Light. And the reason why is that although there's gamers like us that want to take a stand, and I'm with everything that everybody on this panel has said. I'm a dad. I have a 10-year-old. I never I'm going to go off of what Odin said. This is an issue that fascinatingly enough brings Jews, Christians, and Muslims together on the same side of protecting youth. I did not think that when I would have my own kid at age 10, it would be this hard to watch what he watches, to be on top of what's on his iPad and all this stuff. Now, I think that I've taken a stand. Call of Duty's been in my life forever. I mean, I was doing LAN gaming parties in 2004 to 2007. Call of Duty, Battlefield.
Old cyber cafes, bro.
I'm talking 200-man LANs that I ran we would start Friday night at 5, 6 and go all the way to Sunday. 2 days, prizes. Call of Duty's been in my life. I've bought every version that's come out. I've gotten God knows how many DLCs, and I will never touch that game again. Now, the thing is, though, is that unless the word spreads and lines are drawn in the sand and word gets out, I don't believe that Call of Duty is going to have as much of a sales impact as, say, what's happened with Bud Light and Target. But I do hope it percolates to the top, because we've got to take a stand and tell these people that they can take their ESG scores and go F themselves, because there is no amount of money and there is nothing more important than protecting kids. And there is no amount of entertainment that any of us should expect to have that will compromise that. And tolerance, it's tough. I'm a man of faith myself, and throughout my Christian life, you get slapped, you turn the cheek. This is one time we are not tolerant. This is one time we do not turn away. This is one time where we have to grab sword and shield and hold the line, because nothing is more important than protecting our kids.
Tom, are you surprised at the reaction from the gaming community to this, that they're actually fighting back?
Not really. I mean, I've started to see a lot more, and maybe this is partially because some of social media is under less scrutiny from certain sides now. Starting to see a lot more videos of resistance, people pushing back. More famously, I just saw last week or week before, I can't remember which, where a schoolroom full of students, teenagers, was being showed a Pride video. And they started, jeering and booing. And then all of a sudden one says, the one thing that's on everybody's mind, why are you showing this to kids?
Saw that.
It's a math class.
And then the teacher turns around and threatens them with Breakfast Club style detention.
She
and
says,
I'm just
if
like,
you're going to be inappropriate about this, like, no, bitch, you're being inappropriate.
Exactly. Like, what the fuck? Like, why are you showing this to kids? And I did not know who this Merc guy was before any of this stuff. And the beauty of all these things is I meet and learn about more people through these kind of things than any other way, right? Like Carolyn is somebody who works with Eric July and stuff like that, who's been, a member of our Toxic Femme crew, is a great example of these people who just simply say something online, and all of a sudden their life is taken away from them, right? As far as, career wise and all that kind of stuff. And people don't realize that this does happen. It doesn't just happen to celebrities. It happens to everyday people. Celebrities just bounce back easier. That's the difference. In most cases, anyway, unless you're Bill Cosby. I don't know. But anyway, point being, like, I did not know who this guy was before this. I know who he is now. This is shining more of a light on this problem. And the more they scramble and try to make up excuses for this nonsense, because at the end of the day, it really does boil down to parents knowing what their kids are learning and having a say in it. And yeah, I can't believe we're living in this crazy fucked up time, pardon my French, where we're actually talking about the stuff that Odin just said. And you said it too, Matt, and you're one of the more level-headed people I know. You're not just going to say this stuff out in public unless you know it to be true. You've seen it with your own eyes. It's like I remember 30 years ago going, like a lot of people going, oh, they're not really going to use this stuff as birth control. Oh, they don't really want to indoctrinate our children. Oh, this, that, and the other. But now the proof is in the pudding, right? They have become everything that people had been claiming that this could lead to, the dark path that could go down. And again, nobody has ever said that gay people shouldn't be married and all that kind of stuff, or you shouldn't be able to allow to do to your body what you want to do, even though some people may think it's insane. and some doctors shouldn't even do it because it's against a hypocritical oath. But we won't even get into that part of the debate. Nobody has said you couldn't do that. All people are saying is leave the fucking kids alone.
Yeah.
Right? Why is that such a problem?
We're at the base level of requirements here.
Exactly.
Do
Like,
whatever
why
you
is
want to do. Just
why are
please
we
leave
even
our kids
having this
alone.
conversation? I never thought it would get to this point where we
Yeah.
had to say, look, I don't
far.
give a fuck what you put in your mouth. Just leave the kids alone.
Yeah, come
You
on,
know,
guys. Guys, I get it. You're on the parades. Look, you're sucking each other's dick at the White House. Fine, whatever. Can you just not do it in front of my kids? Oh,
Exactly.
Now I'm the bad guy.
Well,
I'm the bad guy.
You know what's even crazier, guys? It's the fact that you have these buzz phrases, right? That the censorship mafia comes after you for. It used to be learn to code, right? Remember that?
Yeah, learn to code.
Became let's go, Brandon. Now it's leave the kids alone. I guarantee you, we're going to be demonetized on this video because we say the phrase "leave the kids alone," and that's how they try to.
Should we all say it together?
Opposition. Yes.
Let's all together.
1, 2, 3.
Leave the kids,
kids
alone.
alone.
Leave the kids alone. Leave
Great
them
job,
alone.
everybody.
Hey,
Leave the kids alone.
teachers, leave those kids alone.
Yeah.
I never thought that would be an actual thing. Like, that was kind of the
Yeah.
irony of that whole thing, you know? It's like, the song is supposed to be from the point of view of a kid, right? Of just being like, I'm sick and tired of adults telling me what to do all the time. No, it's actually become a real thing now.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can
Jeez.
you have your pudding if you can't eat your meat?
Exactly. Like, in this, if you listen to this song, it's probably one of the most innocent songs on that album, because really all what it's about is from a kid's point of view of being told shit by their teacher on day in, day out basis. It's like, I don't want to do this shit. Because the whole story is just a snapshot of his life. You know, it's just, yeah, and that's when he was a kid.
All right, we got a couple of super chats real quick. First of all, David Nelson for $1.99. Hail the 199. We are Legion. Yes, we appreciate the 199. Thank you so much for being here, David. Welcome to the show. Bob Dorsey, our salty superstar, has become a YouTube member.
I think it was a super salty too.
Yeah, we just need 4 more members to hit our goal for this stream. No Money G for $10. I'm with Vader. I choose not to support woke garbage with my wallet. Feck 'em.
Beckham.
Yeah. Feck 'em.
And finally, Whiskey Jack for £2. Microsoft will soon own Activision Blizzard.
Yeah, I remember somebody was like, weren't they trying to buy him out or something like that? But wasn't
they were looking to
SEC
acquire
or
him.
something getting in the middle of it or something or other? I
Yeah,
can't
that was
remember
on Tuesday. They filed a suit to stop it.
Yeah. So, guys, half the panel isn't going to care about this, but we're going to talk about the first episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds Season 2.
I forgot that's what we were here for.
Yeah.
now.
So basically, Tom, Odin, and Mike can go get a coffee and take a bathroom break.
I'm gonna go reload my coffee.
How
I'll
do
be
you
right back.
talk about
Way
this
ahead of
and
you.
not The Flash? Like,
Listen, we
clearly,
haven't watched
Brian and I could get spicy about this, but no,
Oh,
no,
we
no.
really could.
You want to talk about this?
Well, just for you, Tom, we will talk about the Flash after we.
Whatever. I'm just
Oh.
giving you shit, but
All right,
Might as
so-
well. It's the only review the Flash is going to get on the Salty Nerd, so
Yeah,
you
pretty
might
much.
as well talk about it.
Pretty much. But so basically, guys, if you followed Salty Saturday for any length of time, you'll know that we covered all of season 1 last year for the Strange New World series with mixed results, right? Like, we were all kind of like all over the place on that show. But in general, we tended to like it because we hadn't gotten Star Trek Picard season 3 and saw like how good we could have it.
Right.
When it comes to this, so
we were
like
starving. We were starving
Yeah.
Trekkies, and this was like
Akiva Goldsman has returned with a second season of this show. For those of you who don't know who Akiva Goldsman is, he is the Oscar-winning screenplay writer of Batman and Robin, the movie that almost destroyed the Batman.
hey, he
franchise.
wrote on Batman Forever too. Don't take well.
bat
Yes.
nipples.
Yes, he also.
I'm sure he wrote the bad parts.
There's so many great lines in Batman and Robin. How dare you tear that
He
down?
was also the guy behind seasons 1 and 2 of Star Trek Picard, and now he's turned his sights on pre-original series Star Trek.
Right.
And the first episode premiered this Wednesday, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't think it was all that bad, but it was filled with very stupid things and also canon-breaking things.
Yeah. Right.
And at this point, I'm just like, I'm so far beyond Kurtzman Trek where I'm just like, I don't care anymore because like they pretty much run it into the ground. So like whatever they put up there, to me, it's not really Star Trek. It's just like a generic sci-fi series. Overall, like I didn't find it terrible, but it's not Star Trek. and the level of stupidity and suspension of disbelief you have to engage in to enjoy an episode like this is very difficult. But I wanted to get Matt Bader's take on this because he basically came in and said, like, dude, if you like this show, we can't be friends anymore. So I wanted to hear your take on episode 1 of season 2 of Strange New Worlds.
Well, it's very strange because we're just all of us coming off a run of Picard season 3, which I think with a few exceptions we all overwhelmingly really liked, right? Terry Matalas came in there and he made a show that was, I think, truly loved by a lot of old school Trek fans, old Next Generation fans. And we were all like, man, maybe they've listened to us finally. Maybe the people over at in Star Trek world have finally figured out what the fans like. And Star Trek Strange New Worlds season 2 episode 1 came out, and it's absolutely clear that is not the case. Am I right, Brian?
Yeah, no, you're right.
It's very discouraging, to be perfectly honest, because man, they just went straight back into Kurtzman Star Trek. To me, it was it's
not as bad as Discovery.
It's not as bad as Discovery. But man, it's just so weird to me. There was just such a lot of strange things that they did in this episode. I watched it twice for some reason, and I still can't quite put my finger on everything that's wrong with it. But as a Star Trek fan, I watched this episode, and it just doesn't feel like a Star Trek episode. It doesn't feel like Star Trek, much like most Kurtzman stuff does. It just doesn't feel like Star Trek, and I couldn't say that about Picard season 3. But you get into this, and Spock is crying. Spock is awkward. Spock is making strange comments about how he doesn't know how to tell a person to hit warp speed. They make a joke out of that, which was funny, but it was still kind of weird. They bring in Carol Kane. I love Carol Kane.
I do too.
Her character, I think it might be able to grow on me a little bit, but she's coming off as a weird character too, right? Man, I wish I had my thoughts together about this show, because there's just there's things in this show that just aren't there. You go through this episode, and we finally get to see Klingons again. And there's something off with the Klingons. I think they look cool, but they almost look too high def. Does that make sense? I don't, what I'm saying? It's like
very, very colorful.
Very colorful.
Like,
they're
too sharp.
There's something off with them, right? I mean, their foreheads are they a little too big? Is that what maybe
it reminds me of like
that?
If a bunch of models decide to cosplay as like Star Trek characters.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and they all got like fashion makeovers, like all of the 90s when you would go and get those pictures taken at the mall. It's like they all look like that. Like something is like, it's off.
It's like the episode started out as a pickup from last season.
Right.
And we're exploring, the ships in space dock getting repairs, and Pike is talking to Una, and and they're picking right back up. It's like, I'm not going to let him keep you in jail. We're going to fight this, and all that stuff was fine. But then as soon as Pike fucks off for the entire rest of the episode, which we're after the 5-minute mark, no Pike after 5 minutes, right? It turns into a Spock story in the crew, and it was just we learned how Spock gets his loot. It's a therapy loot, right? Because
disappointing.
He can't get in touch with his emotion, and he's crying because he's in love with Nurse Chapel or some nonsense. And it's so strange.
That's not how the Force works.
I know, man. It's just like everything everybody said about these characters.
When Chapel walks by, you would cry a little bit too.
Yeah, I would cry a little bit too. I can't put words to why it's just so strange. Like, we're going through the story, It's like, and all of a sudden, Dr. Mbenga is like some kind of crazy war criminal with like,
Right.
with crazy combat powers. All of a sudden, where did they introduce this? Is this something I missed? And he carries around secret little drugs that
I was literally
makes
texting. I was texting Shane, Brian's brother. I was like, when did the Federation get super soldier serum?
Yeah, exactly.
Where like a 90-pound woman can start kicking the ass of trained Klingon warriors.
So, and it takes me out of it. Mbenga and
More
Chapel,
so, why is Mega holding it? Why is he like carrying it around with him?
Well,
that makes
she
me think
implied that he's addicted to this stuff.
That's not good.
You always carry that with you? Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You want some?
But I could stop whenever I want. I don't got a problem.
Yeah. Right. It was just odd. It was just odd to me. And it just, like I said, I'm back on, as far as this episode goes, I'm back on the hate train, man. This did not feel like Star Trek to me, and I'm sad about it because I really enjoyed liking Star Trek again with Picard. And this, I can't explain my feelings. Brian, why don't you tell us why I shouldn't like this episode? Because I'm terrible at it, apparently.
This is why you don't like it. Anson Mount, the captain of the ship, in the first few minutes of the episode is like, hey, I gotta go.
Yeah.
I gotta get out of here. Spock, good luck, bro. He takes off, and then they immediately get a call. Well, before getting a call, though, they had to make sure to show that the real strong, powerful ensigns, fresh out of the cadets, out of the academy, would put down all the poor male technicians that are walking through there. That one guy who's real big, his name is literally Burly Ensign. Okay.
Oh my God.
After they give him the business, she gets a call, and the call is from, wait for it, Lady Con, right? Leon. I can't say her name correctly.
Lon.
And she's like, there might be a problem with the Federation. So of course, fresh ensign, cadet, now ensign Uhura, goes to Spock and says, hey, Leon's in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Spock goes to Admiral April, who is now officially just, the guy who tells him what not to do.
We need to set up really quick that Spock has been put in charge of the Enterprise temporarily because Pike effed off to go find a lawyer for Una.
Pike is effing off to find a lawyer. So he's in charge. So Spock calls up Admiral April. It's like, La'an said there's a problem with the Federation on this planet, and April's like, yeah, don't go there. Don't go over there. It's the Klingons are in charge right now. We don't want to start a war. What does Spock do? Does he call his captain? No. Does he call? So can he call Pike? Well, Pike is on a super advanced shuttle that's capable of very fast speeds. I'm sure he can take a call, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Nope. Don't call. Don't call his captain. Don't call anyone. In fact, let's just get all the ensigns together who literally were cadets last week and steal the Enterprise. Let's just steal the ship. Well, Kane actually helps them because she's a little bit of a rule breaker, and she's there doing an inspection, whatever, and she's bored.
And she's a new race of alien that we've never heard of.
Brand new
Also
Lethanites.
She's the oldest looking immortal I think I've seen.
Right, So apparently she's very old, and her race has lived on Earth for 1,000 years, and they just recently, and I quote, and I'm quoting, came out. They just recently, in their words, came out. And for some reason, I don't know why they've been I don't know why they just recently
She's been living among humans, unbeknownst to anybody.
We've had starships for at least 200 years, and she came out 30 years ago. I don't understand. There's so many questions there, but I digress. So they steal the ship, and they go and they F off to find Lady Khan. When they get there, of course, the planet is being controlled every 30 days by Federation and then Klingons. Federation, Klingon. The Klingons, they look great. The graphics look fantastic. In the beginning of the show, the graphics are great. All the graphics are good. The makeup is good, whatever, right? of course, Lon is like just kicking Klingons' ass. She's out drinking Klingons. She's out smarting Klingons.
Girl bossing them, yeah.
Girl
She's
boss.
in every way, she is just clearly better than all the Klingons. Just like
Clearly.
Well, she is Khan's granddaughter, so she's of the superior species.
right. She's a superior species, whatever. Right.
They
She just,
literally
like,
recreated the scene from Indiana Raiders of the Lost Ark where
Right.
Marion's out
Drinks
drinking
some
the
of the-
Yep.
right.
drinks them under the table.
But with blood wine, Klingon blood
But with
wine.
blood wine.
instead, yeah.
And then they do that thing where they go down. I don't know why Uhura's on the planet. She's a fresh, like she's now just became an ensign.
see,
She was a good
I
cadet
don't mean-
last week.
I don't mean to interrupt you, Brian, but see, that's one of the things that bothered me about this show because Spock has decided that he wants to steal the Enterprise to go on this mission for Lon. And in the kitchen or wherever they all joined, it's just this weird, it's the entire central cast, right? But the problem I have is that I don't feel like any of these people in this cast would hang out with each other on the ship. They're ensigns, they're different ranks, they're different divisions. It's like, I mean, you were in the military. Did you when you were a private, did you hang out with your sergeant in the mess hall or whatever? You know what I'm saying?
Bro, listen, when I was a sergeant, I couldn't hang out with my sergeants.
It's very strange.
I think I ended my career like pretty low level, but still, I couldn't even talk to someone that was an officer without being scared out of my mind that something bad was going to happen to my career. It's just
also, guys, I wanted to ask Brian about two things. First of all, Spock already stole the Enterprise in the Menagerie Part 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, we have a template for this where basically in this episode, he's just like, hey, do you guys want to steal the Enterprise? Everyone's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
As opposed to that episode where, like, he actually engaged in subterfuge and on the sly stole the Enterprise. It was much better in the original series.
Well,
But secondly, and you can answer both of these at the same time.
Right.
At the end of the episode, it's revealed that the Federation is gearing up for a war with the Gorn.
With the Gorn.
A species that was previously unknown to Kirk when he first encountered them in the episode The Arena.
Right.
So I want to get your take on these two kind of canon breaking things.
Well, yeah. So first off, they did try to show like the Ocean's 11 moment where they steal the Enterprise, and they had this brand new ensign, some Asian girl we've never seen before. Like she's a brand new character, and she's like
Tippy-toe
looking around, and she has her little USB thumb drive or whatever, and she walks up to the terminal, and she's like, she smiles like she's doing something evil, and it's funny because the camera shows Carol Kane just like watching her the entire time. Like in no way was there any subterfuge, and that was like all she did. And in fact, without Carol Kane, they don't steal the ship. They can't even they couldn't even get the ship out of the docking bay without Carol Kane just conveniently being there. And it was stupid. They shouldn't even have shown the whole USB thumb drive thing. They should have just had Carol Kane. You know, I don't know, but it's dumb. And in regards to the Gorn, yes, the Federation should know little to nothing about the Gorn. If we are in before when we had interactions with the Gorn, I was like, well, maybe it's so minimal that we still don't know enough, and maybe they F off for a while. So when we get to that point with Kirk, it's like, it's okay. But if we go into if the Federation goes into a full-blown war with the Gorn, then we clearly know about the Gorn. It completely throws off that episode where Kirk fights the Gorn. It's so stupid.
It's like
the whole thing is dumb because there's so many things that we clearly don't know. Like when Mangold goes down the planet and he sees Khan, he's like,
giving her signals.
He's giving her all the baseball signals or whatever. And we're like, are we supposed to know what the hell that means? I guess we're not. The vial of liquid he pulled out of his pocket that he clearly is addicted to convinces his young nurse to take with him. We don't know what that is. His problems with the Klingons, the Klingon war in general, like everything.
Well, let's set that up really quick though, because they go to the planet to find Lon, and they find out there's this big conspiracy about from the people on the mining planet. This is a dilithium mining planet.
Not all the Klingons.
Yeah. So there's this faction of dilithium dealers that have
You mean
decided,
January 6th protesters?
that have decided that they want to start the war up again between the Federation and the Klingon.
Right.
And how they're doing this is they've somehow constructed a Federation ship underground in this mine, and they're collecting all of this Federation gear to make a what's the
And guys, I wasn't joking when I said that. They literally refer to these guys as extremists.
Yeah.
In this episode.
And during the course of all this, there was an explosion that released or something that released all this bad radiation around, and so everybody's sick. So Chapel and Mbenga go to this clinic or whatever, and they find Lon's people, and they give him some stuff to help him.
Yeah, Gorn Girl from last season.
Yeah. Then the extremists conveniently all of a sudden come in and find them and point a gun at them and say, hey, we need you to come heal our Klingon friends down in the mine. So they go down there, and it's all very stupid. And
it was super convenient. Like,
very convenient.
We need you to come to our extremely hidden facility with all of our where all of our plans will be on display. So you can be.
So anyway, Mbenga and Chapel are in the Klingon med bay on this secret ship that nobody knows anything about. And that's just when they decide that, hey, they figured out this ship's going to be used to blow up something Klingon so that it sets up the Federation and the Klingons to start a war again. And so how are we going to save the day? And well, of course, Chapel and Mbenga in the middle of a ship full of, a couple hundred Klingons decide, well, we need to fight our way to the bridge or some shit, right? Well, how are we going to do that? Well, I got this magic vial of super Hulk juice that we can stick in some things and pop into our necks, and then we're going to be super strong and be able to fight our way through all these Klingon warriors.
The way he says it too, he's like, don't worry, I have some of this, and he looks at her like there's clearly going to be at some point an arc where he is an addict to this stuff. It's obvious they're setting that up.
Well, he fixed his daughter situation, so now we have to give him Mbenga some other dramatic story to go across the season with.
And then it's like 90-pound, Chapel, who's she's really hot, by the way.
So then they inject themselves, and they go and they fight their way out of the room, and Nurse Chapel's kicking ass of all these big Klingon burly warriors. It's really ridiculous.
She threw a 300-pound Klingon warrior, just threw him down the hallway. I don't know what this stuff does, but clearly she now has super strength. Her skin is impenetrable, and she's at least 400 pounds. Because there's no way that Fulcrum is able to do that.
So then we learn Mbenga has some kind of PTSD issues from his war with the Klingon days, because he almost kills a Klingon as he's trying to beat him up to get information out of him to where they can send a distress signal to the Enterprise that's orbiting the planet in the world's most convoluted asteroid belt.
And asteroid is ridiculous. Dude. Yeah, every planet they go to, by the way, this season is has this incredibly convoluted series of obstacles and asteroids everywhere. It's like in future seasons of Star Trek, did a cleanup ship go and just move all that crap away? Because every episode, and I know it's a spoiler,
sweep the asteroids.
Every episode this season, it's there's asteroids everywhere.
Let me ask you guys this: when we were on the dilithium mining planet, were you just glad there wasn't a Kelpian throwing a temper tantrum down there?
Oh, I'm so glad.
Man, that would have been awful.
Because what if a Kelpian had a bad day? Boom, that's it. It's over. Yep. It's over if a Kelpian has a bad day.
All the dilithium just blows up.
It just blows up immediately. So stupid. God.
So Mbenga beats the crap out of this dude, and it's the world's worst Klingon because he immediately gave up all the information that he needed to give up.
I know. He's
no death before death.
No. Level 13. Level 13.
My bad. It's on level 13.
Don't punch me. Don't punch me.
Sorry, sir. Yeah. Klingons are supposed to be this honorable. We're honorable. We will die before we give you our information. It's a good day to die. And he's like, whoa. I'm not. Don't punch me again. It's over
level
there.
13.
Sorry, man.
There's 45 dudes on level 13, and if you go to the end,
do you need help? I'll give you a reach around, Mbenga.
Sounds like a Ryan Johnson twist.
Oh
right
my
there.
God,
God.
it was crazy. This
It was awful.
Klingon broke like he was a Ferengi. Like immediately.
So anyway, they go up there, of course, with their super juice, and the super juice finally wears off right at the point where after Mbenga sends the message through the thing that they didn't really explain very well.
Oh, I like that part. It was a transponder.
And then they break free and they run and they get stuck and they lock themselves inside a
Airlock.
Airlock. Right. So go ahead, Brian. Carry.
Right. Okay. So they lock themselves. I do like the transponder part. They can't send an actual message, so they use basically Morse code with the transponder. That was cool.
It's also another instance where basically you have characters surviving in the vacuum of space.
Right. So they're in the
we're getting
airlock
there.
and they're like, listen, it's surrounded by Klingons. The ship takes off to go start the war, and now they're in space and they're in the airlock and they're surrounded by Klingons, and the only way out is to pop the airlock and hope that the Enterprise will see them in time, right? And the Enterprise has this moment where they're like, we got to destroy this ship because if we don't, it's going to start a war. And so Spock has this moment with a tear down his eye where he's like, fire the phasers. Because he knows Chapel, who's, I'll be honest, if I had to kill Chapel too, I'd be crying a little bit too. I understand. She's really, really, really smoking hot. And he's like, he knows Chapel and Mbenga's on the ship. What's that?
Emotional Spock.
Right. And so he's like crying a little bit. And he does the right thing. He's like, shoot the ship. Fire phasers. And right before the ship is exploded, they jump out or blown up. They jump out of the airlock, held together, and like they start to freeze over immediately. But of course, the Enterprise sees the signal, the EV suit signal, and they beam them on the board in seconds. And even in those, and to be fair, in those seconds, they were pretty messed up. It's not like they were completely fine, but the whole space thing is getting played out. Like it's getting played out with the whole jumping on a space thing. Guardians of the Galaxy are the same thing. I'm just so tired of I get it. Human bodies can't exist in space. Let's stop making that an escape.
Unless you have the Force.
All right,
Unless you have
guys.
the Force.
So real quick, overall, what would you rate the first episode of season 2?
4 out of 10.
Oh, like 3 or 4.
I mean, I would say
Absolutely.
maybe 5 out of 10 because knowing what's coming, this wasn't as bad as the second episode.
Oh no! Really, the second episode's worse.
So here's the deal. Let me tell you right now.
No.
I've seen everything, and I'll tell you right now. The second episode, in my opinion, is worse. When it comes to Rob and Shane, they love the second episode. I hated the second episode. But the third episode's actually pretty awesome. So it's like, for me, it was like, first episode, not good. Second episode, boring and annoying. Third episode, this is a pretty good episode. And there is good episodes. Look, here's the deal. There are good episodes this season. I said it in the very first review last Monday. I said, look, guys, I don't like the first episode. I think it's garbage.
Brian, we need to point out that you got 6 episodes for screeners, right?
I got 10 now. But yeah, I had 6 last Monday.
Nice.
Schiller's got a shill.
Yeah,
No, I'm not shilling. There's no shilling.
No.
Hold on.
It gets better.
Listen,
it gets
this-
better. I
No,
swear.
no. There are episodes that are worse, and there are episodes that are better. I'm just saying, like, this is not the worst episode. I think the second episode for me is actually way worse, and you'll see it. Shane was like, "What are you talking about? It was a great thing." I know it's not. It's like a courtroom drama. It's horrible. You'll hate it.
This thing was like somebody took like little bits and pieces of cool moments from their favorite sci-fi movies or whatever, and just kind of sprinkled them all over into this script. There was nothing original, I don't feel like, in this entire episode. I feel like I've seen everything in this thing somewhere before, and I think that was
not a
the
good first
frustrating
episode.
part. It was awful. It was just
They should have opened with episode 2, to be honest. Even though I didn't like it, they should have opened with episode 2, and episode 1 should have been scrapped. It shouldn't have even been an episode.
I mean,
honestly.
arguably, Pike is the reason I feel like most people watch this show.
Right.
And he wasn't even in it. He wasn't in it. This was emotional Spock episode, and it was it introduced so many weird things to me that just don't feel Star Trekky to me. And there's the whole woman thing, the whole I'm a woman gonna outdrink the Klingons thing, and they introduced a new character in the engineering department, the weird little androgynous.
Are you talking about the transporter chief?
The transporter dude.
Yeah, why is it that every transporter chief is like this skinny little twink? Every single transporter chief is like this tiny little androgynous character, and you're like,
it's like Kurtzman
theme?
came in and said, "Hey man, we've got too much testosterone after Star Trek Picard season 3. We need to sprinkle in some more Discovery weirdness." Okay,
a lot more androgynous characters.
All right, guys, we're gonna wrap this up real quick. We got 2 super chats I want to get to. Bob Dorsey for $10. The writing was terrible. Listening to Spock in the captain's chair was cringe. I want the ship to go now. When did Captain's catchphrase become a thing? Like that was never
Discovery.
a thing. Yeah. Real quick, Eric Weinberg for $2. Triox for the win. All right. So for the second half of the panel that doesn't give a shit about Star Trek, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about The Flash. Now, Odin, you are my brother in the nerdy numbers department. What we're seeing is that for the upcoming 3-day weekend in June, The Flash is projected to make $60 million in domestic box office. Can you break down those numbers for us and why they're terrible for a movie like this?
Yeah, so going into the weekend, the projections were roughly around 70 to 75, and the latest numbers coming from Deadline is that now that projection has dropped to about 55 to 60 domestic. Internationally, it was around 155, and this is something I had been breaking down going into the weekend, that 155, to anyone that doesn't follow numbers, you might say, okay, it doesn't sound too bad. But then you have to remember, well, Little Mermaid made over 200 million, or roughly 200 million or so in its opening. You've had several other films that have been box office bombs and flops that have made, that it made more than what the 155 is. Basically, that Little Mermaid made more, and all these other films that have also been box office bombs made more in their opening weekend internationally too. So the reason why these numbers are especially bad is because you'd never want a film like this to have your numbers tracking down, right? Because typically you want to have a good word of mouth. You release the film hoping that you've got a lot of positivity coming from it that's going to lead to massive success. We saw this happen with with Mario Brothers, for instance. The opening weekend was fine. It wasn't revolutionary, but it was good. But it was its holds that made it even better. Going back to Top Gun Maverick, same thing. The opening weekend was fine, but it was because it had insane level holds that it was really impressive. The fact that day to day now, from Thursday to Friday, we're seeing drops in such a degree as we are seeing, this is really bad news. This film, they report that it cost 220 or so million. There's other reports that I believe a lot more, that it's closer to 300 million or so. Regardless of that, the film needs to make quite a bit of money if it has any chance of breaking even. And I know that, obviously nowadays it seems that a lot of people think, oh, films need to make $1 billion just to be successful. But in many cases, that's actually on paper true, because they cost so much money, they spend so much money on these budgets now, and let alone on their marketing cost, that they honestly do have to end up making about that amount of money for certain cases. The best example is Fast 10. That film's budget was so insane that $1 billion was essentially its break-even point. But yeah, Flash right now, because especially the word of mouth has not been excellent on this movie. If you look at just any of the general statistics, any of the tracking on typical reactions, not only are you looking at critics not really enjoying this movie, audiences too, right? And audiences matter a lot more than critics when it comes to box office dollars. So the fact that this film, even if you were going to be generous and say that it's a middling response from audiences, right? That some are liking it, some are hating it, to a 50-50 split. Even if you were to say that would still not be good news, because this film needs to have a lot better word of mouth than that if it has any hope.
So Mexican Iron Man, one of the interesting things about these projections for the Flash's box office is that it's not inflation adjusted, right? So we're talking about a $60 million opening, whereas Captain America and the First Avengers, that opened at 65 million, but adjusted for inflation, Captain America's box office would be closer to 90 million right now. So the fact that the Flash is only tracking at 60 million means that it is way underperforming. And I know that you went and saw the movie yourself because you're a DC fan. So do you think that it's not a good enough movie to be doing better, or should it be doing better?
I think that the any and all enthusiasm for the DC universe in general, and this is any and all enthusiasm for the DC universe in general has waned. And it's always been all of these characters have been mismanaged for decades. I mean, being a DC fan is like living through hell from a production movie fan standpoint. And it was way too long. I can't tell anyone that I actually care about to go see this movie in earnest. And now my criticism of the movie are not anywhere near as harsh as say Tom's were. Similarly, they're not very glowing. Did I have a good time? Yeah. But I think the box office is a train wreck. I mean, I'm with Odin. I think this thing cost way north of 300 million, which means it's got to do 900. It is an absolute disaster of a train wreck flop. I would have tanked this thing and taken the tax deduction. There's obviously some kind of contractual reasons as to why maybe this didn't happen. It takes us nowhere. And I'm a Snyderverse guy. I mean, as we know from me being on this show before, if there's anyone that's in recovery from being a Snyder fan, it's me. It's just it didn't close any chapters and it didn't open up any new doors that I want to go through as a DC. I'm just at this point, I'm just like, let's just move on. And I feel for anybody and everybody that was really excited for this, that may be a super Flash fan, because I'm not the biggest Flash fan. I mean, he's so far down on the list of DC heroes for me. I'm more of a Green Lantern, Batman guy. And I think there could have been a better way to duct tape this movie together. And that's frankly what I felt like. It was like a lot of cool scenes, some not so cool scenes, but it was like a lot of cool scenes, some not so cool scenes kind of duct taped together. And I think what's happened now is that people, going back to what I think Vader and you were talking about earlier at the top of the show, Matt, is that people are discerning. If they're going to go see something, they want it to be phenomenal. They want it to be awesome. And it better be something that really wants to get you out there, because people aren't like me. I'm going to go see 40 movies a year. It's just, what movies am I going to go see? But I'm abnormal that way. There aren't people like this anymore. And at this day and age, it's going to take someone to, do I want to spend the money on gas? Do I want to spend the time? Do I want to deal with the concession line that Brian was talking about? Is it going to be worth that time? Because people at this stage in the game with entertainment, they don't say, am I going to go see an hour and a half movie? Because with popcorn, parking, and everything else, that's a 3-hour excursion. For me, it was almost 4 hours to see this 2 hour and 25 minutes. And then I waited for the post-credit scene, which was a train wreck. It is absolutely the worst post-credit scene I've ever seen from any superhero movie ever, period. And so I'm not surprised that the box office is disappointing, because I think that anyone that goes to see it is going to be disappointed and not overwhelmed.
Unless you're Brian, anyway.
So that post-credit scene was a screw you to fans, by the way, because they could have easily put that in their mid-credits, not having people have to wait all the way until the end. But the fact that they actually had it, and it was at the very end, and they make you sit through all that crap just to see a completely waste of a scene is.
Odin, did you think it was funny? I didn't think it was funny at all.
It was screw you. Like, that's what it was. It was just like, this was worthless. This did nothing at all. It wasn't funny. Right? Sometimes those scenes can be funny. That one wasn't funny. And then sometimes they set up something and set up nothing. So
I think that's the thing, Odin, that most people are overlooking, is that it set up nothing. That's the whole point going forward, is this is a wrap up, kids.
Yeah. So I want to talk to Tom about this, because the big problem that DC movies are facing this year is the fact that none of them matter, right? They were made under the old regime. And then once James Gunn came in, he's like basically saying like, okay, we're going to be rebooting everything with like new characters and stuff like that. So most DC fans are just kind of like, well, nothing in these movies matters, so I could just wait until video when they come out. And it also, like, this production in particular has had so much chaos surrounding it, like with Ezra Miller and his his extra legal affairs and things like that. And yes, I said he, not they, them. The whole kind of setup for this movie just seems like it has so much going against it. Do you think that is impacting the box office at all?
I think that's a big part of it. I mean, they could have possibly sold this as one of the last hurrahs of the Snyderverse, even though Aquaman 2 is still yet to be released. But I've been told by several people that takes place before this anyway, because initially that was supposed to get released before this. But you're not wrong. This movie has been basically in production for the last 8 years, and I'm not even being hyperbolic. It literally has been in production that long. It has been reshot 3 times over. I've been told by several sources that this is the most expensive production Warner Brothers has ever done. And just going by, we already knew that Justice League a couple of years back was their most expensive production. And I think the reports at the time, just the trades we're going with, was what, 250 to 300 million, Odin, if I remember right. And I was hearing it may have even exceeded that, but my
For
guess
Justice
is
League,
they
yeah, for Justice League it was 300 million.
yeah, and I think I've heard that this is closer to 4. So like I wouldn't be surprised if that's true because of how many times they've reshot and reshot and reshot and reshot. And this movie looks like it. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but this movie is exactly everything that's wrong with comic book movies, multiverse movies, the Snyderverse. You put in your whatever you want here. This movie is that. And I mean, I'm glad people like Brian are finding some enjoyment on it. I enjoyed some of the scenes. I had some fun with it. I'm probably more upset because I'm more pissed at what it could have been and what it should have been instead of what we got. And I mean, again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but we already know there's a cavalcade of cameos. It really starts to feel like the 100-year anniversary clip show of DC after a bit. Like it really has no substance in the film whatsoever. And there's a lot of things that people are, that even the filmmakers completely overlooked, right? There's a major plot hole that makes one of the main characters a murderer, like flat out a murderer, not just, oh, they could have possibly not been. No, they flat out are. And there's several other things that I have a problem with this movie. Michael Keaton was wasted. Sasha Calle, or whatever her name is, Callie, is barely in the movie.
Wait, Tom, you mean this isn't a Batman movie?
They could have made more money with a Flash Batgirl movie. I mean,
See,
based on what we got.
Honestly, yeah, watching the movie, if they would have just, look, Flashpoint is a problematic story to begin with because it's full of a lot of bull crap. And it's like they shoved a lot of the bull crap into this movie and tried to come up with other explanations for it when you could have just left it where it was and done your own kind of streamlined version of this. It really should have been a Batman Flash movie at the end of the day. Instead, it's a de facto send off for the Snyderverse Justice League is what it really is at the end of the day. And it's kind of like an experience that most people are not going to want to waste their time for 2 hours and 20 minutes watching in a theater because we already know it's not going anywhere. Most people know that, or you've got a problem with Ezra Miller, or Michael Keaton is just not enough to bring you back into the theater, or you've got a dozen other fans that are on the Snyder side of things and they're fighting over whether they should support this or not support this movie has so much baggage going into it. I'm kind of surprised it's doing worse than it was meant to do, because I just thought, okay, they're doing 70 million. I thought they were lowballing it. I thought for sure it was going to open hard and then fall off a cliff. No, this thing opened soft and is still falling off a cliff. This is one of the worst openings in DC history. Like, I don't know if Odin brought it up already, but it's actually doing worse than Black Adam, and it had $2 million more than Black Adam did for its preview screenings. So that tells you how bad the word of mouth is affecting this. People are sharing images of it. I mean, and I said the worst review I think I can give this movie is that this movie made all those pointless cameos in Doctor Strange worth something compared to this crap. Because none of these cameos in this movie amount to anything. Nobody does anything or goes anywhere with this thing. It is one of the most wasteful 2.5 hours of my life in the theater, and just is a glowing example of everything that's wrong with Hollywood, superhero movies, all this crap that we've talked about for the last couple of years. And the worst part about it is it's not even the woke factor that's ruining the movie. There is no real woke in the movie outside if you want to just talk about what certain characters are representing and who dies and whatnot. At the end of the day, that isn't even important anymore because they're not going towards the DCU anymore. The problem is it's just a bad movie, right? It's just over bloated and it's obnoxious at times. And it gets to the point where the effects and stuff are so bad. It's like, how did you spend that kind of money on this movie and it still turn out this bad?
Seriously.
So I wanted to throw this to Brian because he seems to be the one guy on the panel up on his hill with his flag planted. But Brian, you know, James Gunn said that the Flash movie was supposed to like reset the DC EU, but that doesn't sound like that's the case. Can you give us your take on the Flash movie?
Yeah, I think that the Flash is the Flash. First off, I like the Flash movie a lot. I loved it. I think Ezra Miller is an insane person, but I think he did a really good job in that double, dichotomy of characters. In fact, even that annoying laugh that the younger Barry has, it is annoying at first, but then it's used at the end of the film in a way that is like almost heart-wrenching. I think that was a really good movie, and I think that the story that they're trying to tell is less of a let's restructure everything in this movie and more let's use this movie to set up my restructure, because it's sort of opening the DC universe into a realm where you can see a different Batman or a different Superman or a different Supergirl or whatever, and not feel like this plant shock, on a new character just showing up. They can use this change in this movie to roundabout explain how a character was changed, because apparently that very innocuous tiny little action that Barry did in the movie was enough to change this big thing. So who knows, it could have changed all kinds of things. And I think that the post-credit scene, which was stupid for sure, was less a slap in the face for Snyder fans and more just a reminder that Jason Momoa is still Aquaman. And it was probably misplaced. They didn't need that post-credit scene.
For one more movie, but anyway, yeah.
Right, for one more, yeah, exactly. Well, because there's a movie coming up. They probably didn't need to have a post-credit scene. In fact, if I was James Gunn, I would have been like, no post-credit scene. I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm still writing it. So I'm glad that from James Gunn's perspective, ready? Good. The movie happened. Now I can utilize this movie to in the universe explain all the changes I'm going to make. No post-credit scene, because I don't know how long Jason Momoa is going to be Aquaman. Maybe he's going to be Aquaman forever. Maybe it's just as Barry said, you're the same in every universe. I don't know. But I'll tell you this. They didn't need a post-credit scene, for sure. They could have just left it as it is. There's a lot of cool nostalgia bait in there, for sure. The graphics, people are complaining about the graphics. Yeah, the graphics were not as good as they could have been, for sure. I think that the graphics in the Time Arena, whatever it was called, was way worse than like the Babies. But I've gotten pushback on that too, where people are saying, no, the Babies are worse than that. I don't know. I can tell you this. The graphics are not as good. They're wonky for sure. But in no way did it detract from the story from me. And I really enjoyed the story. Eventually I ended up loving the two Barrys as two different Barrys. And there were some really heart-wrenching moments in that movie that was like, so here's the deal. If you're a Flash fan, you're going to like this movie. I think you'll like this movie. Like, Mexican Iron Man's not really a Flash fan, right? He likes the other characters, and that's completely cool. Flash is like my number two after Superman. And so I've been waiting for a Flash movie for a long time. I suffered through 90s Flash.
You're that big of a Flash fan and you think this is Flash?
No,
this
it is Flash,
not
though.
Flash at all.
Oh, Tom, listen, like you can be like super salty about everything. That's like your stick. I get it. But I had a good time, dude. I was entertained. I was thoroughly entertained. There were moments in here that only the people that read Flash comics would even understand. They added specific member berries and references that only real like hardcore Flash fanatics would even see as a
please, because I feel like I'm in a multiverse myself here. What the hell is he talking about?
What are you talking about?
This is not even Flash in the remote.
I had to give him a blessing.
I got guys. We're trying to wrap things up. I don't want to go on.
Look, bottom line is I like the movie. That's it. I like the movie. I thought it was great. I had a really good time.
Brian, it's okay if you like the movie.
I'm sort of glad. Like, you can not like it. I get it. Everyone complains about everything all the time. Blah blah blah. I enjoyed it. There's things I don't enjoy and there's things I enjoy, and I'm glad that I was able to enjoy something for once. Because often do I leave a theater where I'm pissed off that I spent $100. Not this time.
Get you.
All right, guys. So we talked about a lot of stuff, and I want to thank everyone in the chat for hanging out with us today. Real quick, Tom Connors Jr., any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
You can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark. I'm going from here over to Pop Culture Minefield, where I'm going to be talking with Geary about Batman '89, an actual good Batman movie.
Nice.
Oh, nice. Check out the Salty Nerd review of Batman 1989. That was a lot of fun. We did Superman and Batman back to back at the beginning of the year. So
I don't know what you guys were
that is on
talking
the
about through
channel.
half that stuff. I just don't understand.
Well, you're special, Tom. Odin, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the numbers at the box office for this film, I think, will speak volumes as far as the general feel of the movie. But you can find me over at ombreviews.com and also my YouTube channel, Rumble channel, etc. All at OMB Reviews. And hey, buy a plushie today. It is still on sale at makeship.com. Templar Odin, Templar plushie, and just
like
about
you.
12 away. I know they did such a great job with this one. About 12 away from hitting the goal. So check it out.
That's great.
And hopefully Odin will be joining us next week as well. Welcome
We'll
back,
see.
Odin.
We'll see.
Mexican Iron Man, thank you so much for coming on the panel today. Any final thoughts, and where can people find you, even though you're not a YouTuber?
Midnight Sage After Dark, Midnight Sage with Tom and or Andre, and wherever else I'm invited. Love to be here. Thanks so much for having me. And yeah, I mean, yeah, go to the movies, everybody. I'm a big proponent of going to the movies. I think we got to go to the movies more often because it gets us out, it gets us away. And I think it gives us a much better position to be able to put together the entertainment that hopefully all of us in the community are going to create and put out there for each other to enjoy.
Yep.
All right, Brian, any more thoughts on your terrible taste in movies and what's going on in Raw Rant on Monday?
All right. Listen, okay.
Here we go.
Here's the deal. I work 20 hours a day. At least 5 to 6 hours of that every day is spent on YouTube stuff. I have 2 kids. I volunteer at a community center. My life is not always entertaining. So when I can carve out 45 goddamn minutes of time for myself, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Only for
And when I roll the
you.
dice every
Good
week
for
on a
you.
movie, and finally after 6 effing weeks, I have a smile on my face, I'm allowed to love that.
How dare you?
How dare me?
Dare you?
But yes, listen, I'm probably gonna. I might be doing a review on the Flash on Popcorn Power Hour tomorrow at around 2:00. We'll see how that goes.
Quit.
I'm
You're
not
just a
feeling-
shill, man. No, we all know you like it. All right. So just come on.
I might be doing that tomorrow at 2:00. I'm not sure if I actually am because I was informed that it was Father's Day tomorrow.
You're just an Ezra Miller lover.
Father's
yes,
Day.
I love.
It's the day before Juneteenth. Get it right.
I was going to ask you, Brian, because yeah, tomorrow's Father's Day. I may or may not be able to make it. You invited me to
Right. Yeah, that I was informed that it was Father's Day. It's funny how fathers don't even know. Like my wife knows it's Mother's Day like 3 months ahead of time. She's like
Right.
preparing me.
Right.
Father's Day, I'm informed today. Like, what do you want to do tomorrow? Like maybe like
Right.
And I'm like, what?
I want you to leave me the hell alone.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to do.
Can I just do nothing? She goes, no, you don't have, no, we need to like go to the barbecue or something. I'm like, I don't want to do
Right.
anything. No, it's not. But it's Father's Day. You got to do something. Like, no, it's Father's Day.
Right.
Which means I don't want to do anything. No,
my
so
day.
like,
It's my day.
but so if I do that, then I'll schedule it and I'll put it on Twitter. Aside from that, there may or may not be a Ron Rant this Monday because our guest is once again. We are having problems with guests. We have scheduled guests all the way out for like weeks, but then this one guest keeps messing with our schedule, and it's like pushing everyone back. And so if it's scheduled, then you'll see it.
Scheduled on
then-
Juneteenth. That's why they skipped.
Is that Juneteenth? Is Monday Juneteenth?
Yeah.
So every
Federal holiday now. Come on.
is it really?
Yeah.
It's like the post office isn't open.
Yeah. It's an official federal holiday now.
That's okay.
I think that happened, last year, 2 years ago?
Something.
I don't know how I feel about that. So maybe there's no Raw Rant in celebration of Juneteenth. I don't know. We'll see. I don't fucking
All right, that's
No,
great.
no, no.
Matt
No,
Vader, what do we got going on in the Salty Nerd channel?
I
Do
don't.
you
I
have
don't
any
know
final thoughts?
what's going on. I have no idea. I don't. We took last week off, so I'm not sure what we have coming out. I'm going to be
You
straight
took
up honest
last
with
week
you.
off.
No, well, yeah, because you work so hard. I know. I appreciate you, man. I love you. You're working 20 hours a day like Brian is over there.
We had special
that's-
guests
yeah.
in the studio all last week.
Yes.
I feel like my mom and dad are fighting.
You know, you producers, you show producers work very hard.
We do. We
And
do.
None of the
Goddamn, we
rest of
do.
us work hard at what we do either. You know, so but
No.
it's okay. I appreciate you. I don't know, Matt. What do we got going on? You speak. Please tell us. Inform everybody.
Well, we've got our final coverage of Warrior Season 2 coming out on Thursday. So that's the Season 2 finale episode that we're going to be covering. And then on Friday, we've got an episode with special guest Lynn Kabazinski, where Alex, Lynn, and I reviewed the movie The Hunted, a Christopher Lambert samurai versus ninja movie from the 90s. So that should be a lot of fun.
I wasn't there. That's why I didn't know we were doing this. There you go.
Yes, you made it very clear you wanted nothing to do with anything.
Nothing to do with that.
And for our season 3 coverage of Warrior, we actually shot a little short film with Lynn Kabazinski that he directed us in. So that was a lot of fun.
I'm going to be
next Saturday we're going to have more guests and more things to talk about. Right now, I just want to thank everyone who gave us super chats. So Joker Voice, Mexican Iron Man, the AstroNerdBoy, Gavin Blackburn, Bob Dorsey, JT Gunn, David Nelson, No Money G, Whiskey Jack, and Eric Winberg. Thank you all so much for your support. We really do appreciate it. And a big shout out to the 199 and the Legion of Memers. We love you guys. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. And until next time, tune in to same salty channel, same salty time for more Salty Saturdays. Until then, stay salty, my friends.